About 37 seconds after the crew called for takeoff thrust, a repeating bell was heard on the CVR, which persisted until the end of the recording 25 seconds later.
The left pylon on the engine that fell off had a crack repaired in 2019. NTSB board member Todd Inman says that pylon came off with the engine during the takeoff roll.
The bulk of the left engine pylon was still attached to the left engine when the engine separated from the wing.
Any idea what that alarm was?
Well, I said that there was a persistent bell. We need to take that FDR data as well to be able to, because there can be numerous different types of alarms and what they may mean. Obviously, we have a working theory right now, and we're trying to validate that against the FDR.
So the cockpit voice recorder, which you can see here on the left, and the flight data recorder, which you see on the right, have been recovered. This is the black box, essentially. They've been recovered intact from the burnt, blackened wreck of UPS flight 2976. It suffered some heat, not intrusion, but heat around it. These recorders are built for that, the NTSB's Inman said on Wednesday. I think the obvious assumption is that the alarm indicated there was a fire, because of course there was a fire, and these aircraft have sensors specifically intended to communicate these sorts of events into the cockpit. According to ABC News, Inman said the bell may have indicated there was a fire, as was evident from footage of the incident, but added that he didn't want to speculate too far. But another expert, Mary Shavo, CNN aviation analyst and a former Department of Transportation Inspector General, went a little further. Shavo said the fire on takeoff shows that something was wrong right from the start.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head,
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. Now that alarm sounded for about half a minute, 25 seconds to be exact. What were the crew supposed to do? What could they do? The UPS cargo plane crew tried to control the aircraft for about 25 seconds before it crashed into a ball of flames. Now imagine being thrust into a situation like this, an emergency like this. You've got 25 seconds to do something to save your life and the lives of the people around you. I think an interesting question that arises is, even with the benefit of hindsight, what could the crew really do in those 25 seconds to bring about a different outcome? I think the problem basically manifested at the most critical time after takeoff, which is a sort of point of no return. When crashes happen at this time, either during takeoff or when they're about to land, there's very little you can actually do. Had it manifested slightly earlier or later, things might have turned out differently. So what is the underlying situation here? What is the underlying problem? Well, in this regard, Inman has said NTSB investigators will independently verify if maintenance work was done immediately prior to the crash, and will be going back and looking at every aspect of maintenance that was done on this plane. Now, before we get to the rest of this analysis, just a little bit more about me. One of the reasons I'm interested in these disasters is because I was in the Air Force, and once upon a time I had dreams of being a pilot. Like many, I was inspired by the movie Top Gun. I was caught up in the romance and magic of flying thanks to reading books like One, Illusions, Stranger to the Ground, and The Bridge Across Forever by Richard Bach. And it wasn't just daydreams and fantasy. I was even offered a chance to fly while I was in the Air Force. I don't mean as a passenger. I was one of just 2 airmen in my year to be offered military contracts. So I was offered a chance to become an Air Force pilot. Funnily enough, I actually learned touch typing, typing with all your fingers during my Air Force training. By the way, if you're new to me or the channel, you can visit truecrimerocketscience.com for more background. You'll see I've written several books. I've also written books on the 1996 Everest disaster, covered topics as diverse as the Titan submersible disaster, the sinking of the Bayesian on this channel, as well as Air India, which was earlier this year. So if you similarly interested and intrigued by this subject matter, consider subscribing to the channel. For those interested in the Ramsey case, I'll be doing a really interesting analysis of FBI agent Ron Walker in terms of the JonBenet Ramsey case. That'll be coming out likely tomorrow on Sunday, so look out for that. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please do hit the thanks button and let's get started. NTSB investigators always look at three things when dealing with a crash. They look into the environment, they look into the pilots, they look at the airplane. That's according to Pete Muntian, who is also a pilot and flight instructor. Since the weather was pretty fair at the time of the crash and the NTSB had few initial takeaways about the environment, the airplane itself will be key, Muntian said. The maintenance will be the big issue. What exactly was done to the aircraft? Who did it? What parts were replaced? What procedures were followed and who inspected the work? That's according to Schiavo. There are a few scenarios where engine separation occurred and the aircraft still landed safely without incident, such as on March 31st, 1992, Trans Air Service Flight 671. And then exactly a year later to the day, March 31, 1993, Japan Airlines Flight 46E. Perhaps you don't want to fly on March the 31st. Then also November 7th, 2007, nationwide flight 723 that actually happened in Cape Town. The number 2 engine and pylon assembly separated from the wing during takeoff. The aircraft performed a successful emergency landing back at Cape Town about 15 minutes later. So what is the critical difference here? Well, these incidents occurred at greater altitude, which gave the pilots a lot more leeway, that space and time to respond and recover. The other difference is that I don't think there was a fire that they had to deal with. The more pertinent question isn't what the pilots could have done, but what was the issue that led to the 2-hour delay in the first place. And there seems to be some uncertainty here. Was there a 2-hour delay or wasn't there? Was there a 2-hour delay in terms of the aircraft that was actually used or wasn't there? According to Liam News, there are reports as yet unconfirmed that the flight experienced a 2-hour delay for the maintenance on the number 1 engine. Obviously, this will be an area of investigation by the NTSB. According to the Courier Journal, during a recent news conference, NTSB member Todd Inman said the black box recorder contained 2 hours and 4 minutes of what the agency considers good quality digital recorded audio. He also said that it'll be several months before an official transcript of that audio is made available to the media. In its review of the audio, the agency found that the takeoff roll was uneventful through the different speed callouts, he said. Investigators have a working theory but need to validate it with information from the flight data recorder and with video evidence. I don't want to speculate on that too far, he said. Now, this indicates that the cause of the crash appears to be relatively simple. I mean, if the NTSB have already developed a working theory, barely 3 or 4 days after the crash, and I would agree with that. But what is a failure of pylon-to-wing structure? Well, it's a critical event in aviation primarily caused by fatigue failure, improper maintenance, or overload conditions, often leading to the engine detaching in flight. I don't think we're dealing with overload conditions. I don't think it's likely that it's a fatigue failure, although it could be. I think the issue here is improper maintenance. According to ABC News, the FDR, that's the flight data recorder data, and the examination by the groups on that will give us a lot more granularity and be able to help paint a better picture. And yet with each passing day, the pieces of the puzzle are coming together in increasingly granular detail. Now, according to wave3.com, FAA records show maintenance workers repaired a crack on the crashed UPS's plane's left engine pylon in 2019. The NTSB said Friday that the bulk of that pylon was still attached to the engine when it detached from the plane during its takeoff roll, leading up to the November 4, 2025 deadly crash. The engine and pylon detachment is similar to the American Airlines Flight 191 crash at O'Hare International Airport in 1979. The DC-10's left engine detached during takeoff, causing the plane to crash, killing 273 people. The DC-10 is the MD-11's predecessor. the NTSB faulted improper maintenance as part of its investigation into that crash. The Safety Board is also dispatching a team to UPS's contract maintenance facility operated by ST Engineering in San Antonio to collect maintenance records. The plane was there for 6 weeks beginning in September. FAA records show corrosion and a crack were also repaired during this stretch. Although maintenance protocols ought to have identified and fixed potential issues, this is an area where human error can creep in. According to simpleflying.com, maintenance protocols now include ultrasonic inspections for fatigue cracks in mounts and bolts. Early indications are that maintenance protocols that weren't adhered to might be a factor with UPS Flight 2976, as the number 1 engine was being worked on immediately prior to the departure of the airport. Now, I've definitely read claims like this one, that there was maintenance going on immediately prior, but then also denial, so I'm actually not sure what the truth is. Now, if this engine did indeed come off prematurely, as it appears it did, then you're going to be looking for the engine mounts. You're going to be looking at the bolts themselves. All of those pieces need to be recovered and brought back in. This is according to CNN. Now, the NTSB might also need to look at CCTV from Louisville Airport just to be clear who was where, when, and working on what as well. The sort of thing we often see in true crime investigations. Look at the CCTV footage. According to simpleflying.com, we will need to wait and see the results of that and whether the similarities to American Airlines Flight 191 run any deeper. As one person on Aviation Herald commented, "I pray they did not use a forklift for the installation of the engine."
Now, ST Engineering has its FAA certification and conducted the work identifying the corrosion and the crack we reported earlier this week, and those issues are common in heavy plane maintenance.
And then there's also this.
The repair work is also the focus of a new lawsuit filed in federal court targeting UPS, Boeing, and General Electric, the engine maker. The lawsuit cites several incidents and crashes where this type of engine fell off or had its fan disc fail, shooting parts into fuel tanks and hydraulic systems.
But wait, there's more.
FAA reports show repairs were made to both engine pylons on this plane between 2019 and 2021.
Is this lawsuit relevant to the UPS crash? Well, time will tell. Well, I'm not going to take it further than that. I did actually do some additional research into controlled flight into terrain crashes. These are the most common type of fatal plane crashes. The crash that we've seen here with the UPS is actually fairly rare. Most crashes are due to pilot error. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to deal with UPS Flight 1354. That was on the 14th of August 2013. It's a fascinating, if very troubling story. Also a spectacular but also entirely preventable crash, all due to human error. If you'd like me to cover that, let me know in the comments. Thank you for listening. Have a brilliant weekend, and I'll see you guys next time.